Hey, what's happening, guys? How you doing? This is Rob of Ro2R Review. Welcome back, and let's talk about this PlayStation Classic that came out of nowhere. So before we get started, I have to say that I know that by the time you guys actually first see this video, this news will actually be about 2 days old. I am a bit late to the party here, which is unfortunate, but sometimes that happens. You know, I've been really extra busy lately with a lot of different things going on, mostly really good things, but it's kind of kept me away from being able to make a lot of videos the last few days. And this news dropped the night before last, and like I said, it was huge news. A lot of people started getting their thoughts and impressions and videos about the PlayStation Classic news out right away. I mean, it seemed like within 10 minutes, a bunch of my good buddies on YouTube had videos out talking about it, and I was like, holy crap, man. I cannot possibly get videos out that fast, but anyway, that doesn't really matter because even though it's been 2 days, it's still big news. I do have a lot of thoughts on the announcement of this PlayStation Classic, and I'm pretty excited to talk about it. So yeah, like I said, Sony has officially confirmed they are releasing a PlayStation Classic, a PlayStation Mini, just like what Nintendo did with the NES and the SNES. And ever since Nintendo started doing that, and ever since they had massive success with both of those consoles, a lot of people have been wondering what else could we see in the classic mini sort of variety for consoles. And while mostly everyone starts talking about more Nintendo consoles, will we see an N64 mini? Will we see a Game Boy mini? People joke about a Virtual Boy mini, you know, the kind of things that we would never actually see. And that's really exciting, but also through that, some people have talked about some non-Nintendo consoles getting the classic or the mini treatment. And of course, first on that list was the PlayStation 1. And in fact, I remember being on a couple of podcasts and talking about it with some folks. And I also remember a conversation probably about a year ago, and I can't remember where, it was a bigger site or a bigger YouTube channel where somebody mentioned that to their knowledge, the way that kind of first era PlayStation 32-bit polygon graphics sort of gameplay was created, and the way those games and the size of those game files were made, that it might actually be really hard and extra expensive for Sony to ever try to do something like a PlayStation Classic, and so maybe that was a reason why we would never actually see it happen. And of course, you guys know me, I'm not an expert when it comes to that stuff, so I kind of took that as face value, and I kind of just assumed, well, maybe it's possible, but according to these folks, it seems like it's kind of hard and it would probably be too expensive, so we'll probably really, you know, realistically never see it. Yet, of course, that was wrong because here we are, and the damn thing is totally real. So what do we know about the thing so far? We really don't know a lot of details, but I would say that the few details we know are actually fairly significant. We know that it will have a total of 20 games, of course, just like the NES and Super NES Classic. And on top of that, we unfortunately only know 5 confirmed games so far, like Ridge Racer, Final Fantasy VII, Tekken 3, and a couple of other games, Jumping Flash and Wild Arms. I think those are the 5 confirmed games so far. You should be looking at an image here or the trailer. So we definitely are missing a lot of games, and I think that Sony is going to probably continue to dole out information and surprise reveals and confirmations over what those games are down the road. I think that'll turn out to be a pretty exciting way to sort of keep the hype and the momentum going, as every few weeks they might confirm another 1 or 2 games and say, hey, this game and this game are also coming, this is what you can expect. And a lot of us are going to continue to wait and wonder and guess and theorize and wish for certain games we want to see show up. And as we see Sony confirm those, that'll obviously be very exciting for people. So like I said, they'll be able to keep the interest and the excitement going until the thing launches. And speaking of launch, the thing is going to be launching actually pretty soon in December this year. It is literally a couple of months away. That is also really exciting. In fact, I'm thrilled about that news because I definitely want to pick one up. It's going to sell for $99.99 or whatever, you know, $100 here, at least in the US. It comes with 2 controllers. It is not the DualShock or the analog version of the PS1 controllers. It's the regular version before they ever added analog sticks to the DualShock. Now, I know some people are upset about that, and I do understand why, and I guess in a way it is unfortunate, but also for me, I kind of don't mind. In a way, I kind of like that, because that's the controller that launched the PlayStation 1. And while not adding analog sticks might limit some of the games that we could expect to see come to the PlayStation Classic, I overall don't mind because I like the authenticity and the novelty of it being just like a launch PlayStation. I still have very fond memories of the original PlayStation controller before the analog sticks were added to it, so overall, I don't mind. If we're going to be playing the Classic, we want to step back into the time frame of when this console, whatever console it is, was actually released. And I think that that's a great way to do it. And again, they are giving us 2 controllers, which is great because the NES Classic did not. Nintendo learned and added a second controller for the Super Nintendo, and now Sony is doing the same thing. Now, before I ultimately get into the main topic on whether or not I see this thing actually being successful or not, let's talk about the one other thing that we do know, and it's the one thing that is maybe not the best news, and it has a lot of people kind of upset, and it's a little bit controversial, and it's the fact that this does not actually come with an AC adapter. It doesn't come with any actual traditional power supply. It just comes with a USB cable. So essentially what that means is if you're going to want to power the thing right out of the box without buying the separately sold power adapter, that means you're going to have to plug it into some kind of USB power source, whether it's a PC or maybe even another home console. A lot of phone chargers are wall plugs, wall outlet devices that actually use USB, so you could plug it into one of those, and to be fair, I think most of us have something like that around, and that is nice, but at the end of the day, it's kind of crummy that they didn't include an actual power supply. I mean, we all know the reason why. It's so that they could actually upsell us to an extra accessory, and they make a lot more money that way. But at the same time, I'm sure that they wanted to keep the price down. And it just kind of makes me wonder how much of a difference in price would it really have been to include something like a standard wall plug. I mean, probably enough to push it over $100 retail, and I can understand that at the end of the day, I'm sure they were very aware that they needed to keep it under $100. Even if it was like $109.99, it still cracks that $100 barrier, and it looks so much better when you can say it's 99 bucks. It's $100, and that's it. Obviously, tax is a factor, but still, it's clear that that's what Sony wanted to do. And to be fair, I think that the goal of $99.99 or less was the smart move and was the right goal. It's just a really big shame that apparently there was no way for them to do that and still include a power adapter. I'm bummed about that, yes. I'm miffed about it, yeah. I'm not really mad about it. It takes a lot to make me mad, if you guys haven't noticed. When it comes to video games, I'm too focused on my real life stuff. That's where usually my energy goes. When it comes to video games and the YouTube channel, as evidenced by me talking about the Nintendo Online, I don't really get mad even when something is a problem and I acknowledge it as a problem. It's like, yeah, I'll call out Nintendo for the online stuff, the stuff that they're not doing right. I'll call out Sony for not doing the right thing and including a power supply. But am I going to get mad and yell about it and scream and swear about it? Nah, that's not really where I want to focus my energy. But, like I said, let's still call it what it is. It's an unfortunate thing. It's kind of lame. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. You know, we probably will have a way to power the thing even without buying an AC adapter. But most of us probably will still end up shelling out that extra cash to do so. So at the end of the day, what's going to happen here? What does this really mean? And do I think it's going to be successful or not successful? Is this going to bomb? You know, is Sony going to be able to achieve the same kind of success Nintendo did? Or is there no way that they possibly could? And you know, I mean, hey, I'm an optimist. I'm a fan of Sony. I myself want one of these things. I think it looks freaking great. I really want to revisit that era of gaming. And so, yeah, I think it's probably going to be really successful, you guys. Right now, there is a market for these things, and Sony is very smart to do what they're doing and to create one of those and play on their own nostalgia. Nintendo has thrived on its own nostalgia for so long, and that has kept them going through even their darkest and worst times. It's part of what makes Nintendo its own brand. Not only is it the quality stuff they make in the here and now, but it's also their legacy, it's the content that fills up their legacy, and it's how Nintendo very cleverly rides on that nostalgia. And the classic consoles they've made has been a great example of that, and it's created a whole new business market for them. And Sony, sure, Sony is just kind of riding their coattails like they've done with many other things in the past, but that's proven to be successful for Sony. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to hear the comments on Nintendo. Sony has been successful in the past, and if they're going to do it again here, I don't really fault them because I think they're ultimately going to make a good product, even if it doesn't have an AC adapter. And so I think that's totally fine for them to do so. They've been around for a long time. They're on their 4th console right now. That's why it's called the PlayStation 4. They have like 20 years themselves in the home console market. Why shouldn't they take advantage of it the same way? I mean, they're even calling it a PlayStation Classic, just like NES Classic, and SNES Classic. So to me, I think it's totally smart. Now, of course, there are a couple of arguments against why you might need to pick up the PlayStation Classic, and arguments against why it may not actually be so successful. The first of these arguments is the fact that, honestly, it's pretty easy to get access to these games through other means, of course. Whether you're using an emulator, whether you're getting them on PlayStation Network, or streaming them through the PS Now thing and PlayStation TV, of course. There's a lot of different ways to access these. I think even PSPs can access some of these games as well. And so someone might say, hey man, I don't need to spend $100 on a PlayStation Mini device to play these games when I can get them either very cheap or almost for free in some cases via other means. And yeah, that's a really good point. You know, you definitely don't need to have this device to be able to play some of these games. But to be fair, that holds true for Nintendo stuff as well, and look at how successful the NES and Super NES Classic have been. The other argument that I haven't seen too many other people bringing up that I think is important to address here is that this era of gaming, early 3D graphic and 3D environment gaming, is weird, it's awkward, it's wonky, it doesn't feel as good as it does now, and that makes it so that a lot of these games, both the gameplay and the visuals, don't really age well. There's something magical about the 8 and 16-bit era of games, gameplay, and graphics that is like timeless. And if you want proof of that, look at the fact that new games are being created today using the exact same art styles, pixel art graphic games using 8-bit, 16-bit graphics. Look at games like The Messenger, or Axiom Verge, or Dead Cells, or 100,000 other games, and some of them are incredible. Shovel Knight, Celeste, I mean, there's just so many games like this. That shows how timeless that stuff is. But that early 3D stuff, like I said, which is pretty much the Nintendo 64, my favorite console of all time, I think. Nintendo 64, PlayStation 1, Sega Saturn, you know, even 3DO and the weird stuff there. Those games in that era is a little bit strange, and, you know, maybe the younger gamers out there who never really experienced them don't understand that, and they want to play these games and they're excited to do so, and I think that's great. But you might also discover, wow, these games are really hard to play. They're maybe not as fun as you think they would be, and people who did grow up playing them who are excited might also discover, wow, they're not as fun as I remember. You know, the older games are weirdly more timeless than these newer games of the 32 and 64-bit era. And so that might also be something else that maybe hinders the success or prevents people from wanting to pick them up, because they're like, hey man, 32-bit era gaming, games like Jumping Flash and the original Resident Evil, before the remake and all that stuff, I don't really like that stuff. It doesn't feel good, so I'm not going to waste my time. That's a real thing that I think a lot of people need to consider, and it should be addressed and talked about. However, at the end of the day, I'm just going to be honest and say what I've already said. For me, I'm excited. I'm going to pick one up because I don't mind any of that stuff. I'm happy to do so. And overall, I still don't think that these factors are really going to hinder the success. There's too much hype and momentum and positivity around the idea of these classic mini consoles, thanks to Nintendo and the success with their consoles. And while, yeah, you can emulate these games on your PC or your Raspberry Pi or whatever, there is something to be said for just the gimmicky novelty of having a mini console designed to look just like the consoles the way they were when we were kids. That is the appeal. Everyone can emulate NES and SNES games, but that's not the same as having this radical little mini NES or Super NES and awesome, like, perfect replicas of those controllers to play the games with on your TV in HD with cool filters and stuff. Like, that novelty alone, in my opinion, and in many others' opinion, is actually worth the price of admission, even if you could get the games for free somewhere else. And I think that that's going to hold true with the PlayStation Classic. And so that's why I'm excited, and that's why I think overall this thing is going to be successful. Is it going to be the mega smash that Nintendo's consoles were? I mean, probably not. Maybe, but I'm going to say probably not, just because they don't hold the same clout that Nintendo stuff does. But that doesn't mean that it's not going to be a success in its own right. I mean, it's definitely more money. You know, the SNES Classic was $80. Now we're jumping up 20 to $100, and that is also going to be a factor. But I don't know. Overall, I still see it being pretty cool. I see it being pretty exciting and doing well, especially if the remaining 15 games that they confirm turn out to be really, really excellent. I want to see Resident Evil and Resident Evil 2. I want to see the original Silent Hill. I want to see Twisted Metal. I want to see Metal Gear Solid. I mean, there's so many other games. I mean, Battle Arena Toshinden was a fighting game I really loved. I say bring it on, man. Let's see what you can actually give us, Sony, on this PlayStation Classic. Can you make a good run at Nintendo's dominance here? Or maybe you're just going to end up failing at this. I guess we're going to have to see. So that's what I think. I'm excited. I expect it to be a hit. It's only a couple of months away. So what do you guys think? Do you think this is cool? A smart move by Sony? Are you excited and are you going to pick one up? Do you think it's dumb and a waste of money? Or maybe you just hate the fact that they seem to be copying Nintendo? Whatever you think, discuss it below. So that is going to be it for me today. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule2 Review, and I'll catch you next time on another video.